I have clicked onto the Global Tropical Overview for July the 6th, 2024. As is always the case in these videos, the flood pressure are mine alone, and if you're going to make any decisions ahead of any tropical cyclone, look toward your local office, local emergency management, and your local tropical cyclone warning center. So we're watching Tropical Storm Beryl in the Gulf of Mexico. The system came off last night of the Yucatan Peninsula after spending about 12 hours there and weakened down to a tropical storm, and it's since been struggling in the face of some light southwesterly or southerly shear and some dry air, as you can see here on the eastern side. Now, the system currently has winds of about 60 miles per hour, and recon data earlier today suggested that the system was maintaining about that intensity. We may be seeing some stronger winds here in these convective bursts on the western side, but as of right now, nothing rapid, as the structure is really not suitable for rapid strengthening at this time. You can tell that because we can see where the low-level center is if you look at the low-level flow. We have southerly winds, pretty strong ones here outside of the convection, which highlights the eastern edge of the low, which is likely somewhere in there. So we have all the convection over here on the western side of the low, and the eastern side is very dry. You could say that there's really no thunderstorms ongoing here at all on the eastern side. And we could see why if we look at some recon data that just came in from a NOAA plane that's flying in right now. They dropped some dropsons here on these eastern side of the low. And we're going to look at dropson 3 just to show the profile of moisture. And you can see that it's pretty dry on the eastern side of Beryl, and this is really what's been plaguing it the entire day today. You can see just how expansive this dry air is if we look at the not the relative humidity, the water vapor imagery, which helps show the relative humidity. You can see that we have very dark colors here in the southern Bay of Campeche. This is just showing that there's a lot of dry air throughout most of the atmosphere. And this is entraining a little bit onto the eastern side, and has at times tried to get into the northern side of the low as well. And this has really kept thunderstorms at bay from getting over to the eastern side, and this is really the only thing holding it back from intensifying pretty quickly. You can see that overall the pattern does appear fairly favorable for the system. We have a lot of expanding cirrus clouds aloft over the Gulf of Mexico and the southern US, and even in some ways going off towards the south. And really the only thing holding it back is this dry air and a little bit of southerly shear, which you can see the cause of that if you look at this upper low here. This is a weak upper low that is continuing to weaken, but it's still imparting a little bit of shear over the system. And this will be decaying over the next day, and that's important for the evolution as we go towards landfall sometime on Monday right now in Texas. So what we're going to be watching for over the next day is to see exactly how does the structure evolve as the system comes towards the Texas coast. Right now, hurricane models are agreeing that the system will get better organized. You can see this on the HWRF model. Go back a little bit. You can see that this is the analysis on the model, and we have this upper low here. So that's bringing that southerly shear. And the system is still asymmetric if you look at the relative humidity. You can see that surface low is here on the southern edge of all the convection. But as we go into the day on Sunday, this upper low weakens even more, and you can see that we now, as a result of that, get more of an expansion of upper level cirrus expanding away. So upper level outflow is expanding to the north and west of the system, and this is likely what the HWRF is showing as a response to the shear weakening, increased convection firing and wrapping around onto the southern side. You sort of saw it there when I went to this mid-level relative humidity plot, but you can see that as that upper low weakens, we begin to get a more symmetric bubble of moisture surrounding this eye, or not eye, but center of circulation around Beryl. And this is a structure that is much more favorable for more quick intensification upon the coastline. And you can see that as this structure takes place, we do begin to see that quicker intensification pace, now getting to a hurricane on the model as it comes towards the Texas coast with a pressure in the low 970s. And that would probably be, a Category 1 hurricane with 80, 85 mile per hour winds on this forecast. Now, one thing we will have to watch for is, does this dry air continue to plague it a little bit more than models like the H4 is showing? The HAFS models do show, I might be able to pull it up here, a little bit more of a struggle. See, this is the same time as the H4 where it shows that more concentrated moisture bubble, and the half-say still has this dry air plaguing it on the eastern side. So that's one thing we're gonna have to watch for tonight. See if the dry air does fully abate, and if Beryl is able to get that moisture surrounding itself. Now you can see eventually, even in the halves, it does get that moisture bubble surrounding it, and we still do get intensification on this model up to landfall. And this seems to be a general consensus from these models, and the environment looks to be favorable by that point for general strengthening on the day on Sunday and early on Monday prior to landfall. And you can see the H4 shows that intensification there. And this has gotten to the current forecast of the National Hurricane Center, which is still consistent from what we've had for the past several days, showing a hurricane coming in here to Texas with winds of about 85 or 90 miles per hour. Could it go to, say, Category 2 with winds of 100 miles per hour? It's within the realm of possibility, but overall, it's not going to make much of a difference between Category 1 and Category 2, and this could be a significant impact for this part of the coastline. Now, one thing that has happened since the Caribbean is that Beryl has gotten a bit larger, and now we have increased concerns of significant storm surge here. Now you can see that we have hurricane warnings in place on this map. Now, this map will not show you storm surge warnings. You have to go to a separate part of the National Hurricane Center website for this, which you can find all in the advisory page at hurricanes.gov. But you can see we have a storm surge warning in place from about Corpus Christi Bay on up to Freeport, and we have a storm surge watch in place for Galveston Bay to the Texas-Louisiana border, and from about Corpus Christi Bay down to Brownsville in the mouth of the Rio Grande. And if you're unfamiliar with what a storm surge watch or warning means, that means that you could have life-threatening storm surge within the next 24 to 36 hours. A warning means that it's expected. A watch means that it's possible. And you can see what we're expecting here on this forecast from the National Hurricane Center. They're talking about 4 to 6 feet of storm surge inundation from about Mesquite Bay to Sargent in Texas, including Matagorda Bay. But even surrounding there, Corpus Christi Bay, you could be looking at 3 to 5 feet of inundation. Sargent to St. Louis Pass, we could be looking at 3 to 5 feet as well. Galveston Bay, 2 to 4 feet on up to the Texas-Louisiana border, 2 to 4 feet as well. From the Texas-Louisiana border to, say, Cameron in Louisiana, 1 to 3 feet of storm surge. And south of the Corpus Christi Bay down to Brownsville, we could be looking at 2 to 4 feet of inundation as well. Now, one thing about this part of the coastline is it will be turning. The winds will be turning more offshore once the storm does go north of you, but one concern is with these bay areas, you may still have onshore flow even as the storm comes north of you, and that could still cause some significant water rises along these bays. And one important thing is that if you're in any evacuation order because of the storm surge expected in your area, make sure you heed that, as water is a very dangerous aspect of tropical cyclones, and it's one of the leading causes of fatalities within hurricanes. And you never want to take a chance with storm surge. Just make sure you heed those evacuation orders. Now, in terms of wind impacts, you can see that we have a hurricane warning in place, like I said, from about Corpus Christi to Freeport. Now, one thing about this graphic is this does not show the inland hurricane and tropical storm warnings. There are some that extend a little bit further inland, and this cone will not show you that. I know you may have seen earlier this year, the National Hurricane Center intends to have a cone like this in about a month, but this is not that cone. This is still the old one that shows only coastal warnings, not inland warnings. And if you want to see if your specific area is within a hurricane warning, just go to weather.gov. You'll be brought to this page, and you can click exactly to where you are. They'll have all the information you need from the Hurricane Center, and say you're living in Victoria, you can click right onto it and see that you're in a hurricane warning from this site. Now, in terms of rainfall impacts, as we are going to be seeing some significant rainfall from the storms that come to shore, we're talking about very heavy rainfall that could be widespread 4 to 8 inches of rain, potentially some local totals getting up to a foot of rain, especially near the landfall spot here. But note how far inland this extends. We're not just talking about a coastal issue, we're talking about areas, Dallas, east of there, into eastern Texas, northeastern Texas, and even getting into Arkansas as we go towards Little Rock. We could be having a widespread path there of 4 to 8 inches of rain. And I know we need this rain in a lot of places in Texas. We're in a drought, but this could be falling in a very short period of time. And coming out of a drought, you never want too much at once, as that can cause very significant flooding. And make sure you're aware of your threats in terms of flooding. And if you get a flash flood warning from the Weather Service, make sure you're staying or taking that seriously, as they are issued for a warning or a reason. And you can see the threat here from the Weather Prediction Center on excessive rainfall. This is just risk of flash flooding, and you can see that we have a level 3 of 4 moderate risk of excessive rainfall, but the general slight risk, that's level 2 of 4, goes all the way up and extends even as far east as central Louisiana, and we could be having a lot of flooding issues from the storm as it pushes inland, as we're expecting the system after landfall to come northeast, and throughout the middle of the week, we'll be having it get into the Ohio Valley, and we could have some more rainfall up there, but it'll be a non-tropical cyclone by then. That's all that I've got for today. I'll have another video tomorrow before the system makes landfall in Texas. Probably not one on Monday, just given the timing of landfall, but stay safe in Texas as the system comes through, and make sure you're getting your preparations done. One thing I want to do real quick before we leave is talking about when you need to have your preparations done. Preferably tonight, have them well underway or done, but you have at least until tomorrow morning before tropical storm force winds may arrive. We'll be probably getting outer bands though tomorrow morning, so it may be a little bit more treacherous to be preparing ahead of time. So that's why I say preferably have them done tonight, but you can push them to tomorrow. And we'll probably be getting, again, tropical storm force winds coming in as we go into the tomorrow afternoon time frame. That's all I've got for today. Thanks for watching.